Imagine walking into your dark kitchen at 3 in the morning. You step onto the expensive hardwood floor in your bare feet, but instead of dry oak, your heel plunges into a freezing, spreading puddle of standing water. You look up, and your massive, gleaming French door refrigerator is steadily weeping a stream of half-melted slush straight down the brushed stainless steel. It is a slow, methodical leak originating right from that glowing, touchscreen-enabled exterior ice dispenser you paid a massive premium to own. Buying a modern refrigerator with a through-the-door ice system is like purchasing a vehicle where the radiator is intentionally designed to flood the engine block. The convenience is a highly calculated illusion. This is not just random component failure. This is a deliberate industry shift toward temporary mechanisms meant to brutally extort your bank account the minute the factory warranty expires. We are going to expose the micro-switch condensation rot that kills these dispensing units dead in your kitchen. We will walk through the sealed assembly parts ransom that transforms a $5 mechanical flaw into a devastating financial penalty. And you will find out exactly why the technicians who fix these machines absolutely refuse to allow this specific architecture inside their own houses. It all points back to a central engineering failure we call the thermodynamic door trap. But the physics of this design dictate a very different reality. On the brightly lit showroom floor, the appliance salesman pitches you the absolute peak of modern domestic convenience. They sell you the dream of perfectly crushed ice and triple filtered water on demand, all without ever opening the heavy main door and letting the precious cold air escape into the room. It looks undeniably sleek, sitting there under the halogen lights. The minimalist LED indicators glow a soft, inviting blue across the seamless touch panel. But look past the glossy exterior trim and examine the actual physical mechanism tasked with holding the freezing air inside the cabinet. You will find nothing more than a flimsy, spring-loaded plastic flap sealed with a microscopic rim of cheap, highly porous rubber. Did you really think a millimeter of plastic could hold back 0-degree air? The moment that cheap rubber gasket degrades from normal repetitive use, aggressive thermodynamic forces take over. Warm, moist kitchen air forces its way straight up the sub-zero ice chute due to the severe pressure differential. Condensation instantly forms on the interior plastic walls, freezing solid against the mechanical pivot hinges. This creeping frost buildup violently wedges the delicate flap permanently open. Now you have established a constant, open superhighway of humid ambient air invading the pristine freezer compartment, forcing the compressor to scream overtime, while the ice bin itself fuses into a solid, impenetrable glacier. Soon you will notice the distinct, musty smell of rotting mildew forming inside the perpetually damp chute lining, accompanied by a steady, maddening drip onto your floorboards. Fixing this exact failure means bleeding mid-hundreds out of your pocket for an entirely new chute assembly, because the massive appliance conglomerates absolutely refuse to sell you just the 50-cent rubber gasket. It represents a fundamental mechanical nightmare that silently eats the machine alive. Physics always collects its debts. Here is where the boardroom arithmetic becomes your personal headache. The heavy ice-crushing mechanism promises perfectly chipped, uniform ice for your evening beverages, a feature they heavily highlight in the promotional brochures. But pull that massive, over-engineered ice bucket out of the door cavity and critically examine the drive system hidden behind it in the dark recesses of the freezer. You will uncover a high-torque electric drive motor desperately trying to turn a primary auger gear manufactured entirely out of brittle, cost-slashed, injection-molded plastic. When that inevitable warm air leak from the faulty chute flap melts the individual ice cubes into a massive, concrete-like slab of frost, the electronic motor remains blindly obedient. It attempts to spin on command. The forged steel motor shaft violently grinds against the soft plastic receiving gear. The tremendous physical torque forces the inferior plastic to aggressively flex under the impossible strain until microscopic stress fractures compromise the entire drive housing. Then the plastic teeth shear completely off. You press your glass against the sleek trigger pad and you do not receive a cascade of fresh ice. Instead, you get the violent, rhythmic thud of a jammed, overheating motor desperately fighting itself, quickly followed by the terrifying acoustic crack of brittle plastic shattering like cheap glass deep inside the door panel. You are suddenly on the hook for a massive drive motor replacement, parts, and labor, rivaling the total cost of a budget standalone chest freezer. Any guy who swings wrenches for a living will tell you the ice maker accounts for more than half their weekly service calls. You are buying a recurring subscription to failure. This brings us to the real engineering crime of the assembly. The cascade of destruction does not stop at the mechanical level. The sheer arrogance of the thermodynamic door trap extends right into the delicate nervous system of the appliance. They dazzle the consumer with edge-to-edge capacitive touchscreens and high-resolution digital temperature readouts seamlessly embedded right above the ice dispensing lever. But peel away that thin exterior veneer of tempered glass, and you reveal a naked, unsealed printed circuit board sitting mere inches from a zone of extreme, violent temperature fluctuation. You are essentially putting a space heater next to a freezer and hoping they negotiate a peace treaty. As the chute flap inevitably fails and the plastic auger permanently jams, the constant, brutal battle between sub-zero internal freezer temperatures and 70-degree ambient room air creates heavy condensation, sweating deep inside the unventilated door cavity. Corrosive moisture actively creeps into the unprotected motherboard housing. The delicate copper electrical traces begin to rapidly oxidize. You will physically see thick, green, fuzzy corrosion actively eating away the microscopic solder joints that control the entire appliance. One humid afternoon, you will notice the digital screen flickering erratically like a dying neon sign. Then, the compromised dispenser starts violently spitting out whole ice cubes randomly in the middle of the dark night. Eventually, the entire display simply goes black, accompanied by the distinct, dark, burnt electronics odor seeping directly out of the control panel vents. A catastrophic motherboard failure in a modern appliance guarantees an unavoidable diagnostic fee, plus specialized proprietary parts that can easily push the total invoice into the high hundreds. Look inside the lunchroom of any independent repair shop, and I guarantee you'll see a bare-bones icebox without a single water line attached. The decay is mathematically guaranteed. Notice how the manufacturer profits from this exact failure sequence. First, they intentionally fuse the fragile, cheap mechanical flap assembly directly to the highly expensive electronic user interface board, creating an unholy union of plastic and silicon. Second, they boldly classify the entire absurd monstrosity as a non-serviceable sealed module in the official corporate parts catalog, explicitly forbidding technicians from fixing individual broken components. Third, they leverage encoded proprietary communication chips within the logic board, so independent aftermarket suppliers cannot legally produce a cheaper, more durable replacement. Finally, they extract a massive, non-negotiable premium from you just to restore basic kitchen functionality, deliberately locking you right back into the exact same flawed hardware ecosystem. You cannot outsmart a machine built to cannibalize itself. The solution requires abandoning the illusion of luxury entirely. Demand a plain, solid, metal front door. Buy internal freezer drawer ice bins only. Reject exterior touchscreens and digital water panels. Look for simple, manual wire shutoff arms. Prioritize analog temperature dials over circuit boards. The mechanical degradation is as predictable as a metronome. Every single time you hand over your credit card for a glossy through-door gimmick, you are directly funding the next miserable generation of disposable, engineered garbage. We absolutely refuse to let these massive conglomerates hide behind sleek architectural design and heavily edited promotional brochures. If you want to beat the corporate monopolies and start analyzing your household equipment with relentless, unforgiving logic, hit the subscribe button. The thermodynamic door trap never fails to extract a heavy toll from those chasing fragile luxury.